a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Saigal. On the show tonight, just a short while ago, US President Donald Trump met NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, where he announced that Trump has now made a deal to send weapons to Ukraine. The question we ask tonight is, with more weapons, is the hope for any kind of ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia lost? Also on the show, we will tell you how, despite Western sanctions, Russia's war machine is still running smoothly, wherein critical components used by Russia against Ukraine is reaching Moscow through third countries and shell companies. Finally, on Gravitas, we will tell you about US President Donald Trump's much-prized golf resort, where you have to shell out a little over $1,300 for one round of golf.
Patriot missiles specifically, or Patriot batteries that you're planning, and
everything.
when do you
everything? It's Patriots. It's all of them. It's a full complement with the batteries.
And when do you expect them to arrive in Ukraine, sir?
Well, we're going to have some come very soon, within days actually, because a couple of the countries that have Patriots are going to swap over, and will replace the Patriots with the ones they have, and Matt will coordinate with NATO. But so it's going to be, they're going to start arriving very soon.
And this afternoon, Boris Pistorius, the German defense minister, is visiting Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and we'll discuss also, I think, on this whole Patriot thing. Norway is involved, so that's on the Patriots, but this whole deal is also about missiles or ammunition, so it's broader than Patriots.
We have one country that has 17 Patriots getting ready to be shipped. They're not going to need them for them. So we're going to work a deal where the 17 will go, or a big portion of the 17 will go to the war site.
Mr. President.
That can be done very quick.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Could this transaction with NATO be viewed as a step towards achieving peace, letting Putin know that now Zelensky has a little bit more powerful tools in his tool chest, and maybe that brings him to the table to achieve peace? I know that you wanted to do that.
Brian, that's what we've been saying. I think you might have expressed it better if you wanted to. That's exactly what it was.
That's a summary.
That was a nice summary. You might, I think he's done better than us. He's a very good guy, I can tell you that. But no, it's well said. Yeah, I think this is a chance at getting peace. Or it's just going to be the same thing. I have to tell you, Europe has a lot of spirit for this war. A lot of people, you know, when I first got involved, I really didn't think they did, but they do. And I saw that a month ago, and you were there, most of you, many of you were there. The level of esprit de corps, spirit that they have is amazing. They really think it's a very, very important thing to do, or they wouldn't be doing it. Look, they're agreeing to, just, you know, they're paying for everything. We're not paying anymore. We have an ocean separating us. I said, we have a problem. We make the best stuff, but we can't keep doing this. And Biden should have done this years ago. He should have done it from the beginning, but he didn't. He didn't know he was there. This guy, what a horrible job they did for this country. And I just hope, between the border and this and so many other, inflation, what a horrible administration, the worst administration in history, in my opinion. That's not my opinion. I think it's everybody's opinion. Sure. But this is something that shouldn't have happened, and we're going to see if we can end it.
If I can follow up.
I do want to make one statement. Again, I said it before. This is not Trump's war. We're here to try and get it finished and settled and whatever. Because nobody wins with this. This is a loser from every standpoint.
From day
this
one.
was Biden, and this was other people. And it's very sad. It's a very sad situation. This gentleman's doing a great job. I think he's going to get it, and Matt and everybody else that's working on it. I think you'll get this thing over with. Hopefully.
Mr. President, you've praised European countries today as standing up for Ukraine, as being strong. Will you allow them to continue to negotiate tariffs lower than 30% before August 1st, or is the deal set at this point?
What does that mean? You mean you're talking about the tariffs?
On trade, on tariffs.
You're back on tariffs. You're on a more friendly tariff, right? A little bit more friendly tariff.
Perhaps.
No, we're going to be talking to people. We have, you know, I watched the show this morning. They were talking about, well, when's he going to make the deal? The deals are already made. The letters are the deals. The deals are made. There are no deals to make. They would like to do a different kind of a deal, and we're always open to talk. We are open to talk, including to Europe. In fact, they're coming over. They'd like to talk to us.
Mr. President, is there any concern about the U.S. stockpiles? There was a pause in delivery of weaponry to Ukraine in order to evaluate, apparently, the U.S. stockpiles. What came out of that?
Evaluation. I mean, this was a very big, what we're talking about today is a very, very big day. And what Pete was doing, and me too, I knew what Pete was doing, was evaluation, because we knew this was going to happen. And now we actually announced it. They voted on it. It's all been done. So obviously that has a big impact on, you know, when you say pause, obviously you're not going to be doing things if you don't know what's going to happen here. But we were pretty sure this was going to happen, so we did a little bit of a pause. But this is a very big, this is a very big event today. This is something
Mr.
very...
President, if Putin escalates further, how far are you willing to go in response?
In what?
How far are you willing to go if Putin were to escalate, send more bombs in the coming days?
Don't ask me a question like that. How far? I don't know. I want to get the war settled. They're not Americans that are dying in it, and, you know, I have a problem, and JD has a problem. It's a stance that he's had for a long time. They're not Americans dying, but there are a lot of people dying, and on something that should be able to be settled. And we all agree with that. This group of people, that, you know, we want to defend our country, but, you know, ultimately, having a strong Europe is a very good thing. It's a very good thing. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, please, in the back.
Yeah, is there a ceiling on what the Europeans are willing to pay for? And it sounds like, are you ruling out the U.S. paying for from additional weapons through drawdown authority?
Shall I try to answer that? Because basically what the president is saying, that he is willing, of course, taking consideration what the U.S. needs itself. So it's not that you can have a shopping list and you can order whatever you want, because the U.S. has to make sure that the U.S. keeps its hand on what the U.S. needs, also to keep the whole world safe, because in the end you are the police agent of the whole world. You are the most powerful nation on earth, the most powerful military on earth. But given that, the U.S. has decided to indeed massively supply Ukraine with what is necessary through NATO. Europeans 100% paying for that. And what we have been doing over the last couple of days is talking with countries, and I just mentioned the ones who in the first wave immediately said, we want to chip in. And then you are really talking about big numbers. Take Germany visiting today. They're really talking about big numbers.
Can we get some clarity?
I will say that I spoke with Germany, spoke with most of the larger countries, and they are really enthusiastic about this. They want to, and you know, they're willing to go very far. I will tell you, you know, as per your question, how far would I go? They want to go very far. They don't want this to happen. That's why I think from Putin's standpoint, it would really be good. He gets the country's economy is doing very poorly, and he's got to get his economy back. He's got to save his economy. He could save his country in a sense, but the economy can destroyed a lot of countries over the years. He wants to get that economy back. And, you know, he's got a great country for trading and other things. If they could use the assets instead of war, he's got some tremendous potential. That's what I would say.
How did you deliver this news to Putin, sir?
Say?
How did you tell Putin this was coming?
I speak to him a lot about getting this thing done. And I always hang up and say, well, that was a nice phone call. And then missiles are launched into Kyiv or some other city. And I said, it's strange. And after that happens 3 or 4 times, you say, the talk doesn't mean anything. My conversations with him are always very pleasant. I say, isn't that a very lovely conversation? And then the missiles go off that night. I go home, I tell the First Lady, you know, I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, oh, really? Another city was just hit. So it's like, look, he's, I don't want to say he's an assassin, but he's a tough guy. It's been proven over the years. He's fooled a lot of people. He fooled Bush. He fooled a lot of people. He fooled Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden. He didn't fool me. But what I do say is that at a certain point, you know, ultimately talk doesn't talk. It's got to be action. It's got to be results. And I hope he does it. It's potentially such a great country to be wasting so many people on this and the money. And look at what's happened to his economy. Look at what's happened. So,
And with the threat in 50 days,
yeah,
the economy will be hit very hard.
I mean, look, I hope he's going to do it. He knows the deal. He knows what a fair deal is. If there is such a thing as a fair deal, there's no winners here. This is a loser. This is a loser. And I dealt with him from the beginning. And it wouldn't have happened, but I will say Ukraine was the apple of his eye. We talk about it. It was the apple of his eye, but it wasn't going to happen. And he understood that. It wasn't going to happen. And then I noticed, after I was out, I noticed soldiers forming at the border.
Yeah.
And then I heard horrible, stupid things being said from the other side. And I said, they're really handling it very, very wrong. It's a shame. Yeah.
Can I add one thing, and that is about President Trump, because you came in office in January. On the 12th of February, you had your first phone call with Putin. I think you did exactly what I hope you would do, that is breaking the deadlock, starting the conversation, because you have to test him. I know Putin very well from the days when I was Prime Minister in the Netherlands. You have to test him. And you did this, and you really gave him a chance to be serious, to get to the table, to start negotiations. Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, we all tried to help you. But you've now come to a point where you say, well, hey...
We actually thought we had probably 4 times the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have called and you would have said, this looks good.
Yeah.
And then the deal wouldn't happen because bombs would be thrown out that night and you'd say, we're not making any deals. It was like...
But you breaking the deadlock was crucial because you had to start that process, and you were the only one who was able to do that.
I think we'll get it done.
Do you think he's reasonable enough to negotiate an end to
I think we're
this?
going to get it done. I think, look,
All right, and that's the big news coming in from the Oval Office, where U.S. President Donald Trump just met NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and announced that he will be sending top-of-the-line weapons to Ukraine, including Trump sending 17 Patriot batteries to Ukraine from an unknown NATO country. Trump further asserted that he wants the war to settle. He wants the war to end, further saying that a lot of people are dying, and also warned Russia, threatening 100% tariffs on Russia in a span of 50 days. Well, to talk more on this and the big announcement from the White House, we're now being joined by correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's joining us live on the broadcast from New York. Hi, Susan. Trump has made the announcement of sending top-of-the-line weapons and 17 Patriot batteries to Ukraine. Talk to us about the significance of this deal as Ukraine battles Russia.
It's very significant, especially because, first of all, he said it's after that evaluation at the Defense Department to see that the United States does have in its arsenal the capabilities to send these on the one hand, and on the other hand, a complete U-turn from what he said earlier. Nonetheless, it appears, as he mentioned in his own words, that Putin's words and actions are not aligned, and he sees no other way as to arming Ukraine to defend himself. Also significant, as you mentioned, was the fact that in 50 days, there may be a 100% tariff on Russia. There is going to be a sanctions bill on Capitol Hill. Very likely that it will be passed. There's going to be additional sanctions on Russia, but also this tariff threat looming over Russia as well. Nonetheless, it appears that Rutte and Donald Trump seem to be on the same page. He touted, and this was a message to his MAGA base, that Europe is going to be doing the heavy lifting. It's not going to be the United States. He sort of sidetracked on how far the United States will go in arming Ukraine and defending Ukraine. He still said that there is a possibility for some kind of negotiated settlement, nonetheless expressing his disappointment with Vladimir Putin, especially after those numerous telephone calls, quote unquote, pleasant calls that they had, and then ultimately, witnessing the bombing campaign against Ukraine by Russia.
Right, Susan, thanks very much for joining us here on Gravitas and sharing insights with us. Clearly, it has been a U-turn from Trump's earlier position where he blamed Ukraine for the war, and now Trump is sending a new shift of weapons to Ukraine. Thanks very much for joining us. And while the US has perhaps announced new sanctions on Russia in a span of 50 days if a deal is not reached, a Kyiv Post report says that Western components are still fueling Russian airstrikes. An investigation by the International Partnership for Human Rights, or IPHR, with the help of the Ukrainian Independent Anti-Corruption Commission and published on Kyiv Post found that Russian fighter jets shot down over Ukraine were found to contain hundreds of foreign electronic parts. All this despite Western sanctions. Researchers examined the wreckage of downed Su-34 fighter bombers and Su-35's air superiority jets. They traced 1,115 out of 1,119 electronic components to foreign companies. The question being, where are these parts from? Well, they found that the parts came from 141 companies across the world, mostly from the United States, and others came from Germany, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea and Switzerland. Major manufacturers include Analog Devices, Texas Instruments, Intel and Murata. And don't be mistaken, these tiny parts do big things. They power targeting systems, communications, navigation and guidance on Russia's most advanced jets. Well, I am talking about integrated circuits, microcontrollers, field programmable gate arrays, and they are all extremely important to Russian airstrikes on Ukraine. Which brings us to the main question: how perhaps are they reaching Russia, and all this despite the sanctions imposed by the West? Well, according to this very report, Moscow is using shell companies as well as complex trade routes to access them through China, Hong Kong, Turkey, UAE and even some European nations. In 2023 alone, over 180,000 shipments of microelectronic items reportedly reached Russia. They were worth more than $800 million. Well, many shipments were valued under $10,000 in a bid to avoid detection. Some Russian companies reportedly even advertised their expertise in bypassing these sanctions. Now, this report accuses the West of perhaps having failed to enforce their controls effectively. A line from the report says, and I'm quoting here, "In the third year of Russia's full-scale war on Ukraine, Western policymakers have largely failed to disrupt the Russian military's supply chains." And here's the bigger picture. Despite Western sanctions, Russia's war machine is still running very smoothly. New data shows that in 2023 alone, Russia imported nearly $22 billion in critical components. That includes $9 billion worth of battlefield items. These are parts, and perhaps these parts, these components are reaching Russia through third countries like China, Turkey, the UAE, and even some European nations. One shocking figure, almost 98% of restricted electronics are routed through these intermediaries, and shell companies hide the real buys as well. Shipments are then broken down into small packages in a bid to avoid any kind of detection. And as a result, Russian missile and drone manufacturing, it has now surpassed pre-war levels. And all this, just to remind you, despite Western sanctions on Russia, despite the sweeping measures imposed by the West on Russia that were meant to curb Russia's war machine. What seemingly emerges from all of this is that Western sanctions on Russia are just an eyewash. 3 years on, Russia's war machine is still running and Ukrainian sites keep burning. If the world truly wants this war to come to an end, it's time to stop pretending sanctions are enough. It's time to get both the sides on the table. Well, we now shift our attention to West Asia, where tensions are growing in Israel over a controversial plan put forward by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Israeli military has reportedly pushed back against Bibi's proposal to relocate most of Gaza's civilians towards the southern part of the enclave into what has now been described as a concentration camp. According to reports, during a heated cabinet session on Sunday night, the IDF officials warned that Bibi's plan could risk ongoing ceasefire and hostage negotiations with Hamas, further saying that the plan could exceed $4 billion and also take over a year to implement. Netanyahu's plan reportedly aims to move an initial 600,000 Palestinians into what's being described as a humanitarian city built on the ruins of Rafah, with the long-term goal being the forced relocation of Gaza's entire population of more than 2 million people. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, in an interview with The Guardian, called the Rafah proposal akin to a concentration camp, further stating that forcing Palestinians into such a zone could be viewed as an act of ethnic cleansing. Now, during World War II, concentration camps were centers where Nazi Germany imprisoned Jews, political opponents, and other groups. Millions of innocent people were tortured, starved, and killed in these concentration camps, and that's during the Holocaust as well. Under Bibi's proposed plan, Palestinians entering the camp would reportedly undergo screenings, be unable to leave, and depend entirely on aid from foreign agencies, with the IDF guarding the borders. Now, Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz, earlier this month said that those inside would be encouraged to immigrate from Gaza permanently. Israel's Channel 12 reported that Netanyahu responded angrily to the military's reluctance, demanding a faster timeline, and told the IDF that he expects, and I'm quoting Bibi here, a realistic plan. Now, frictions between Netanyahu and the IDF have intensified, especially in the past few weeks. Earlier this month, the IDF Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, reportedly cautioned Netanyahu during a cabinet meeting that this plan could cause Israel to lose operational control in Gaza altogether. US President Donald Trump, who has floated similar ideas and plans to depopulate Gaza, said that a ceasefire agreement could be finalized within a week.
Gaza, we are talking, and hopefully we're going to get that straightened out over the next week. Let's see what happens.
Well, let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We will tell you how Bangladesh is trying to sweeten ties with India with its mango diplomacy. The UNIS-led government has sent 1,000 kg of Haribhanga mangoes to Prime Minister Modi. Also on the show, following one of the most harrowing incidents in recent aviation history, the Air India CEO has said that the probe into the Air India crash is far from over. We'll also tell you about how the scientists have detected the largest black hole merger ever recorded, a collision so massive it sent ripples through space-time itself. Well, at least 89 people have been killed in Syria's southern Sweda province as clashes between Sunni Bedouin tribes and Druze fighters raged for a second day on Monday. The violence began on Sunday when Bedouin gunmen abducted a Druze vegetable vendor, sparking retaliatory kidnappings, though the hostages were later released, but fighting carried on till Monday. With mortar fire hitting villages and dozens wounded, the streets of Sweda were completely empty. Well, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, death toll includes 46 Druze fighters, 4 civilians, 18 Bedouin fighters and 7 unidentified people in military uniforms. As violence escalated, Israel also said it struck several tanks in Sweda, citing its commitment to protect the Druze community. But further details were not provided. In the aftermath of the violence, military convoys, armed civilian vehicles and ambulances transported wounded to Damascus. Syrian Interior Minister has blamed the lack of state and security institutions for the ongoing tensions in Syria, further urging the reactivation to ensure civil peace.
The security deployment plan has been prepared by the Ministries of Interior and Defense within the Sweda Governorate, with the aim of asserting state authority and applying the law and disarming the groups who are operating outside the law and spreading chaos in Sweda.
Druze spiritual leaders call for calm, demanding global protection rather than the entry of security forces into the province. The fighting just highlights the challenges facing Syrian interim leader Ahmad al-Shara, whose Islamist forces ousted President Bashar al-Assad in December. Remember, the country is still reeling from 14 years of war, with al-Shara now struggling to contain violence. The Syrian military announced troop deployments as well as safe corridors for civilians, promising to end the fighting quickly and decisively. Syria's Druze community, followers of an esoteric religion, split from Shiite Islam, around 700,000. They are mainly based in the Sweda province. Bedouin and Druze factions have a long-standing dispute, with violence occasionally erupting in late April and early May as well. It's all these incidents of period violence in Syria that is perhaps undermining confidence in the new Syrian authorities' ability in a bid to protect the minorities of Syria. With fighting intensifying in Sweda, the fate of Syria's minorities remains uncertain under the new leadership. Well, across Africa, a growing trend is raising serious questions about democracy. Aging leaders clinging to power, often by rewriting the rules or ignoring them altogether. In Cameroon, President Paul Biya, now 92, has officially declared his intention to seek an 8th term in the presidential election, scheduled for October 12th. Biya, who first took office in 1982, announced his candidacy on social media, stating that he remains committed to leading the country despite mounting challenges. Now, if re-elected, he could remain in office until nearly 100 years old. And his health remains a topic of concern, especially after a 42-day public absence last year. Under Biya's leadership, Cameroon has reportedly grappled with deep economic troubles and persistent violence. The English-speaking regions reportedly reel from a drawn-out separatist insurgency, while Boko Haram's deployment in the north remains a deadly threat. Apart from Cameroon, in Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni, aged 80, said he will contest next year's election, seeking a 7th term in office. He seized power in 1986 after a civil war and has ruled the East African country for nearly 4 decades. According to reports, Museveni has consistently brushed aside retirement calls and consolidated his grip over both the government and his own party. Experts warn that Uganda is drifting further into authoritarianism, with opposition voices virtually silenced. While in Ivory Coast, 83-year-old President Alassane Ouattara is likely to run for a 4th term. Though he has not publicly confirmed it, his party has nominated him as the candidate for the upcoming election in October. Ouattara has led the country since 2011. His presidency has reportedly brought economic growth, but has also drew accusations of targeting political opponents and bending the rules in the country. Now, Ivory Coast's constitution limits presidents to 2 5-year terms. However, in 2016, his administration oversaw the adoption of an amended version of the constitution, allowing the president to run again in 2020 and now possibly once more. Now, the three African leaders extended their own rule raises important questions. Number one, are they just simply refusing to let go? Or is democracy just a term on paper in all these three countries? And shifting our focus to Taiwan now, Taiwan is preparing full throttle for what it sees as a possible invasion tactics by China. From military and civilian drills to deploying the best of troops and technology, Taiwan seems to be leaving no stone unturned to put up a solid fight. But as you know, wars are hardly won without allies and partnerships who help with resources, money, manpower, and global backing, in all of which Taiwan is turning out to be unlucky. As Taiwan gears up for a potential military conflict, America's allies have started weighing in, such as Australia, a major security ally of the US. When asked about his position on Taiwan during a 6-day China visit, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that he supported the status quo. Take a listen.
We support the status quo when it comes to Taiwan. We don't support any unilateral action there. We have a clear position and we have been consistent about that. What's important when it comes to international relationships is that you have a stable, orderly, coherent position going forward. Australia does. We want peace and security in our region. We don't want any change to the status quo.
Well, earlier, Australia's Defence Industry Minister Pat Conroy said that the country will not commit troops in advance to any conflict. This is in response to a report that claims that the Pentagon has urged its trusted allies to clarify their stance should a situation arise where the United States and China enter into a war on the Taiwan issue. In an interview with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Conroy said that Australia prioritizes its sovereignty and said that the decision will be determined by the government of the day.
Well, first, I don't disclose confidential discussions, but I make a couple of broad points. One, we don't engage in hypotheticals. We don't discuss hypotheticals. But secondly, the decision to commit Australian troops to a conflict will be made by the government of the day. Not in advance, but by the government of the day, and that's our position, and it's been long established.
Australia, in its own backyard too, is stocking up its war arsenal. It opened its largest ever war-fighting exercise with the US, involving 30,000 troops from close to 20 nations. And well, according to a report by the Financial Times, besides Australians, the US Under-Secretary of Defense for Policy has been imploring Japanese officials to come clean on their position on Taiwan as well. Important to note here is that both Australia and Japan are members of the Quad Alliance alongside India and the US. And with America's foreign policy against Taiwan under scrutiny, Taiwan is facing what seems like a collective abandonment from the US and its allies, thus making the Quad's position on the self-governed island extremely precarious. Where does all of that leave Taiwan is the question we ask tonight. All right, in other news, Australia is conducting its largest war games in its history, known as Exercise Talisman Sabre, amid China's expanding military deployment in the Indo-Pacific region. Our next report telling you more.
For the first time, Australian troops have fired the US-made HIMARS long-range rocket system during live military drills. These truck-mounted rocket launchers can strike targets up to 400 kilometers away. The HIMARS, or the High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, has emerged as a major weapon, especially for long-range precision strikes. Fast, mobile and lethal, it is in high demand among US allies across the globe, including the Indo-Pacific region. Australia now joins that list with an official demonstration of its firepower. Born as a bilateral drill between Australia and the US back in 2005, at this year's Talisman Sabre exercise, around 40,000 troops from 19 countries are coordinating across thousands of kilometers. Stretching from Australia's Indian Ocean territory of Christmas Island near Indonesia to the Coral Sea on its eastern coast. Countries participating in the exercise include the United States, Japan, South Korea, India, France, Germany, Indonesia, Canada and the UK, among others. This year, the exercise also expands beyond Australia for the first time into neighbouring Papua New Guinea. The drills include live fire exercises with US F-35B stealth fighters, ground-launched missiles and coordinated land-sea-air operations.
The shifting availability of military technology means that countries don't have to come close to Australia as they did in the past. We had thought the sea-air gap, the waters to our north, were a great protective buffer. Well, modern weaponry very quickly traverses that gap now, so we have to respond to that, and it means that the idea of protecting the homeland, it means that countries don't have to come close to us to present a threat or to seek to potentially impact the way a government might make decisions. It can do it from afar, and we have to be able to respond to that.
In the past 4 Talisman Sabre exercises, Chinese surveillance ships have been spotted off Australia's coast, shadowing every move. And Chinese vessels are expected to monitor this year's exercises as well. As China's footprint grows across contested waters, countries like Australia are moving to assert readiness and coordination among allies. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Well, India-Bangladesh ties have seen some turbulence in recent months, but in a gesture aimed at thawing these relations, Bangladesh's interim chief Mohammad Yunus has revived the long-standing tradition of mango diplomacy with India. Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus of Bangladesh has sent 1,000 kg of Haribhanga mangoes to Prime Minister Modi as a gesture of friendship between the two neighbouring countries. The mangoes that were sent through Akora land port on Thursday were packed in 60 cartons. Officials handed over the consignment to Bangladesh Assistant High Commission representatives in Agartala. The Yunus government has also sent mango consignments to chief ministers of states bordering Bangladesh. Now, the Bangladesh government has been sending seasonal mangoes to India for several years now as a symbol of cultural ties and regional diplomacy. Now, mango diplomacy, which was started by former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, serves as a symbol of goodwill and exchange amid recent tensions between the two countries. However, behind the soft veneer of mango diplomacy lies a far more complex situation, with Yunus administration formally requesting the extradition of the former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who is living in exile in India. Not just that. Since the Yunus interim government came to power, anti-Hindu demonstrations have rocked Bangladesh, with reports suggesting that Hindu houses and temples, including ISKCON and Kali temples, were targeted in Bangladesh. Following one of the most harrowing incidents in recent aviation history, the search for answers continues. Now, the CEO of Air India has spoken out, emphasizing that the probe is still very much ongoing. With the investigation into the June crash of an Air India Boeing focusing on the engine fuel control switches. The latest coming in is that the Director General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, has instructed domestic airlines to conduct checks on switches that regulate fuel supply to the engines on those planes. The Federal Aviation Administration back in 2018 had flagged the potential disengagement of the fuel control switch locking feature on certain models of Boeing aircraft. Our next report telling you more.
It's nearly a month since the devastating Air India crash that claimed dozens of lives and sent shockwaves across the aviation industry. It was a crash which shook the country and raised urgent questions on aviation safety. Now Air India CEO Campbell Wilson has spoken up. In a message to Air India staff, Wilson says the initial report found no mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft or engines. He urges avoiding drawing premature conclusions as the investigation is far from over. In its 15-page report, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau says once the aircraft achieved its top recorded speed, Engine 1 and 2 fuel cut-off switches transitioned from run to cut-off positions one after another in a time gap of 1 second. In the cockpit voice recorder, one of the pilots is heard asking the other why he cut off fuel, after which the aircraft quickly began to lose altitude. The other pilot simply says he did not do it. Wilson adds every Boeing 787 aircraft operating in the fleet was checked within days of the accident and found fit for service. The airline has said it will continue to cooperate with the investigators to ensure they have everything they need to conduct a thorough and comprehensive inquiry. With grieving families still seeking closure and public trust on the line, the airline has stepped up internal safety reviews and urged the public to wait for the facts and not fuel speculation. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, how much would you pay to play golf, especially when the venue is none other than the US President Donald Trump's much-prized golf resort? What if I tell you that you need to shell out a little over $1,300 to have your shot at it? Our next report telling you more.
US President Donald Trump's fascination with golf is really no secret. But what is even more spectacular is the venue where he plays it in. Right on the southwest of Scotland, flanked by stunning views and a breathtaking coastline. Spanning over 7,500 yards, Trump's Turnberry golf course, one of the two owned by Trump in Scotland, is more than just a paradise for lovers of this particular sport. It is an experience of a lifetime. A place that make it to the bucket list of golf enthusiasts from across the world. It is one of the most featured too, making its place among the top 20 golf destinations in the world. And, well, as it turns out, Trump supporters can now have their chance at it too, paying just over $1,300 for a round of golf. In 2014, when Trump bought Turnberry for about $53 million and spent another fortune on its remodeling, he held the vision of making it the best in the world, and the ultimate venue to stage the oldest of golf's 4 major championships. And in ways more than one, the venue has truly stood the test of time. Early this year, in March, pro-Palestinian protesters vandalized the venue, spraying "Gaza is not for sale" in huge white letters on the lawn. The group said this is in direct response to US administration's operations in Gaza. And this summer, the president is expected to take a trip to Scotland to open a new 18-hole course at his Many estate as a tribute to his mother and fulfill his long-term dream of hosting the Open for the first time since 2009. Will he be successful in hitting the ball out of the park? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, shifting our focus to India, Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha has started an outreach program for victims of terrorism in the Union territory. It's perhaps an effort to provide job opportunities and recognition to families who have suffered due to cross-border terror and have been waiting for justice for decades. Take a look at this report by our special correspondent Idris Lone.
It's been a long wait, finally showing signs of ending. Official data says around 1,200 families contacted the district authorities seeking justice and rehabilitation. 40 appointment letters were handed over at an event in Baramulla, with the assurance that the process would continue till the family of every terror victim gets support.
I met a few families who were victims of terror in Anantnag. It was a very emotional moment. There were several innocent people who were victims of terror. We are committed to ensure self-employment for those people and that these people receive the recognition and support they deserve.
The Lieutenant Governor also assured that the days are over when the family members of killers and dreaded terrorists got government jobs. The new initiative offers much needed relief to the people who genuinely need it.
My two uncles were killed by terrorists in 1992. Since then, we have been asking for justice. Our case was still going on since then, and we have not been rehabilitated. We want to thank the LG for all the help.
Social workers too have hailed the initiative as a road to get the lives of thousands of bereaved families back on track. The government says authorities have decided to review cases where FIRs were not lodged. There are numerous cases wherein FIRs were not registered, land was encroached and property demolished.
The families of the terror victims from North Kashmir met up with the LG. In the last 3 decades, around 11,000 casualties have taken place here directly due to the cross-border terrorism. Till now, there was no one who would hear them out, and it's for the first time in decades that someone has come forward to listen to the victims' families.
Helplines have been set up in districts to register grievances of families of victims of terror. Authorities say that they are receiving hundreds of complaints.
Manoj Sinha assured them that he will provide all the help to the family members of these terror victims across Jammu and Kashmir. This is the first time that government has started this rehabilitation program, and within 15 days, 40 family members have already received job letters from the government of Jammu and Kashmir. With video journalist Firoz, Idris Lone for WION World is One.
India's beloved street snacks, jalebi and samosa may soon come with health warnings, just like cigarette packets. These warnings will highlight the high levels of oil, sugar and trans fats. Well, these are closely linked to lifestyle diseases. The campaign is being rolled out first at AIIMS Nagpur, and this will serve as the pilot location for the initiative. Cafeterias on the campus will begin displaying warning boards next to food counters. Nutritionists have welcomed this move as a necessary step in a country where deep-fried snacks and sugary sweets are consumed on a daily basis. But small traders and sweet shop owners argue that this is an assault on culture and livelihoods, claiming that the government is demonizing tradition. The government says that it is not a ban or restriction perhaps, but an awareness drive. The warning label campaign is expected to expand to other cities and institutions in the coming months. Officials hope that this will act as a wake-up call and push more people towards balanced diets. According to a recent study published in Lancet, 70% of India's urban population is classified as obese or overweight. The study also revealed that 30 million adults in India are either overweight or obese, and 62 million diabetic Indians exhibit obesity-related traits. Frequent consumption of deep-fried and sugary snacks is also a major contributor. By 2050, an estimated 440 million Indians could be overweight or obese. Scientists have detected the largest black hole merger ever recorded, a collision so massive it sent ripples through space-time itself. Captured by gravitational wave detectors on Earth, these black holes are more than 100 times bigger than our Sun. Our next report telling you more.
The cosmos, a realm of unfathomable power and mystery, has once again unveiled a spectacle that challenges the very foundation of our understanding. A cosmic tremor, a silent symphony echoing across billions of light years, has just reached Earth. Two monsters of the universe, each tens of times the mass of our Sun, met in a violent embrace, merging into one supermassive black hole unlike anything seen before. The collision unleashed immense gravitational waves, which are invisible ripples that warped the very fabric of space-time, traveling across the universe for billions of years before crashing into Earth's detectors. The European Virgo and American LIGO observatories captured the signal, a low, thunderous hum that echoed from deep space. Scientists now confirm it to be the biggest black hole merger ever recorded, with the resulting singularity weighing over 100 solar masses. Physicists suspect the black holes that merged were themselves products of earlier mergers. That would explain how they came to be so massive and why they were spinning so fast, as merging black holes tend to impart spin on the object they create. Their immense mass and extreme spin push the very limits of current gravitational wave detection technology and theoretical models. This discovery strongly suggests a hierarchical formation where these colossal black holes may themselves be the products of earlier, smaller mergers, a cosmic lineage of ever-growing giants. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, imagine this, hundreds of thousands of books attacked, pages of history eaten away just like that. And if you're a bookworm, this one will bug you even more, quite literally, and leave you rather torn. This 1,000-year-old sprawling monastery in Hungary, also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, has been the site of a major beetle infestation, one that is threatening its ancient book collection. This has left the restoration workers at one of the oldest centers of learning in the country racing against time in a bid to preserve their precious books and to save decades and centuries of medieval history from being wiped away. Known as drugstore beetles, these insects feed on the glue and the paper inside books, leaving almost no trace of the material. And to beat the beetle at its own game, hundreds of books are being removed from their shelves on a daily basis and treated with advanced chemicals and disinfectants to save the last of those which have been harmed already.
This is an advanced insect infestation which has been detected in several parts of the library, so the entire collection is classified as infected and must be treated all at the same time. We have to remove all the books from the shelves, put them into boxes, then into hermetically sealed plastic sacks. Inside them, an anoxic disinfection process takes place. Basically, we create an oxygen-free environment in which insects perish, since oxygen is necessary for their life.
But what perhaps caused this beetle attack in the first place? Climate experts say warming climate and high temperatures could be a factor in helping double the birth cycle of the beetles, perhaps offering them a favorable environment to multiply aggressively and form a swarm. What's more, that this might be just the beginning of many more such infestations and insect attacks in the future, especially in closed spaces. If you could draw a leaf out of this and learn a lesson, it would be this. Take utmost care of your books and manuscripts while there is time, lest they fall prey to these paper-eating pests. All right, with that, we slip into a very short break, but we're leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION The World.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back to WION World is One, and thank you for staying with us. Time now for Pulse. I'm Eric Njoka. Let's begin this broadcast with the headlines. President Trump tells Russia to resolve its Ukraine war within 50 days or face massive new economic sanctions